My name is Vorruk, Senior Intelligence Analyst for the Galactic Observation Bureau, and I want to make one thing absolutely clear before this record is filed. None of this was my fault. Yes, I was the one who flagged the signal. Yes, I was the one who escalated it to the high command. And yes, technically speaking, I was the one who used the phrase possible extinction-level communication event in my report. But in my defense, I had absolutely no idea that humans were involved. If I had known that, I would have filed it under miscellaneous noise, do not disturb, gone home, eaten my nutrient paste, and slept like a perfectly sensible Vorrukan. But I did not know. So here we are. It started on what we call a Cycle 7 monitoring rotation. Boring work. The kind of work that makes junior analysts stare at their data panels until their eyes forget what focus means. My junior analyst, a small and unfortunately eager creature named Pelk, was on shift when the signal hit. Pelk, to his credit, did exactly what the manual says to do. He screamed. Then he ran down the corridor. Then he found me in the cafeteria, where I was quietly minding my own business and arguing with a vending machine about the temperature of my soup. "Senior Vorruk," he said, completely out of breath. "There's a signal. There are always signals, Pelk," I said. "That is why we have a signal detection department. Sit down." "This one is different," he said. "Now, I have worked in the Galactic Observation Bureau for 43 cycles. I have heard this one is different approximately 6,000 times. It is never different. It is always a pulsar glitch, a rogue comet broadcasting static, or occasionally a lower species attempting to microwave food and accidentally broadcasting the microwave frequency across 3 star systems." I took one last sip of my lukewarm soup, looked Pelk dead in his 4 eyes, and said, "Show me." What I saw on the screen made me put down my soup. Forever. I have not touched that brand since. The signal was coming from Sector 41, a region we officially classified as, quote, biologically active but strategically irrelevant. More informally, it was known around the Bureau as the Messy Corner. It contained one small blue-green planet, third from a medium-sized star, populated by a species we've been casually observing for approximately 4,000 of their years without incident. They were called humans. They were loud, confusing, and had a documented habit of making war over rectangles of colored fabric, which our xenoanthropology team spent 17 years trying to understand before giving up and writing a report titled, "We Do Not Know." We accept that we do not know. The signal was not random noise. It was not a pulsar. It was structured, layered, and packed with encoded data in a format so dense that our translation matrix spent 40 minutes just identifying the carrier frequency. When it finally resolved into something readable, every analyst in the room went very, very quiet. It was a map, not just a map of their star system, not just a map of their galaxy. It was a map of everything. Every charted system in the known galaxy, annotated with travel routes, gravitational corridors, resource deposits, and notes. There were notes, written in 17 different alien languages, including 3 that we had classified as extinct. Pelk turned to me very slowly and said, "Senior Vorruk, how do they know where the Keth buried their data archives?" That was a good question. The Keth had buried those archives 400 years ago, told no one, and then had the poor timing to go extinct 3 weeks later due to an incident involving a solar flare and some extremely overconfident urban planning. We found the archives ourselves only 60 years ago. No one else should have known they existed. Certainly not a species that, as of last observation, was still arguing about whether the planet was round. And then the second layer of the signal decoded. It was addressed, personally, to the Galactic Observation Bureau, Sector Monitoring Station 12. And I want to be very specific here because I am still not over it, to my desk. My personal identification frequency. My desk, it said, "Hello, we know you have been watching. We thought it was time we talked. Please do not panic. Also, please tell Vorruk that the soup machine on level 3 is broken. We can see that too." I stood up very slowly. I looked at Pelk. Pelk looked at me. Around us, 14 analysts were sitting in total silence, staring at their screens, every single one of them pointedly not making eye contact with the vending machine camera in the corner. I picked up my communicator. I call high command. I said the thing I had never said in 43 cycles of professional service. Sir, I said very calmly, we have a problem, and it is watching us right now. Somewhere out in Sector 41, a small blue planet rotated quietly on its axis, and I had the deeply unsettling feeling that it was smiling. High Command's response was immediate, decisive, and completely wrong. Admiral's Wrath, Supreme Commander of the Galactic Observation Bureau's Defense Division, a being so old and so decorated that his chest medals required a separate structural support harness, looked at my report for exactly 11 seconds. Then he slapped the table and declared a priority red mobilization. 6 fleets, 40 warships, full combat readiness across 3 sectors. I raised my hand and said, Admiral, with respect, the signal was friendly. They mentioned my soup. He stared at me for a long time. That, he said, is exactly what an enemy would say. I had no response to that, partly because it made no sense, and partly because, somewhere in the back of my mind, I was worried he might be right. Because here's the thing about humans that our 43-page official species summary completely failed to capture. They are never doing just one thing. Every single human action we had ever recorded contained at least 3 layers of meaning, 2 layers of subtext, and 1 layer that our analysis team described simply as unclear intent, possibly comedic. So, yes, 6 fleets, 40 warships, all pointed at a small blue planet that had recently demonstrated it knew where our filing cabinets were. What happened next took approximately 9 hours, which, historically speaking, is the fastest a galactic-scale diplomatic incident has ever escalated from interesting signal to everyone is shooting at something. And the truly remarkable part, the part one will be required to explain at my formal review, is that the humans did not fire a single weapon, not one. The entire war, if you could call it that, was started, escalated, and nearly concluded before the humans did anything more threatening than send follow-up messages. The First Fleet, commanded by Admiral's Wrath, the second-in-command, a deeply anxious officer named Commander Grix, dropped out of faster-than-light travel at the edge of Sector 41 and immediately detected 3 things. First, no human defensive fleet. Second, no weapons platform. Third, a broadcast signal already waiting for them on their primary communication channel, in perfect Grixian, which is Commander Grix's native language, spoken by fewer than 2 million beings in the entire galaxy. It said, "Hi, you can park over there. We left space for you. Also, Commander Grix, your fuel cell on Ship 4 is running low. You'll want to check that." Commander Grix did not check his fuel cell. Commander Grix ordered an immediate flanking formation and launched 17 long-range probes toward the planet's surface. The probes entered the atmosphere perfectly. They reached an altitude of 40 kilometers. Then, one by one, they stopped, not destroyed, not disabled, just stopped, hovering politely in place, like someone had pressed pause on a remote control that Commander Grix did not know existed. Another message arrived. "We caught your probes. We will hold on to them for now. They are fine. We gave the one with the broken antenna a quick fix. Actually, you are welcome." Back at Station 12, I was watching this live feed with Pelk at my side, both of us eating cold nutrient paste because nobody had time for the cafeteria, and Pelk said very quietly, "They fixed our probe." "Yes," I said. "That is terrifying," he said. "Yes," I said again, because here is what the Admiral's tactical briefing had missed entirely. The humans were not threatening. They were being helpful. And somehow, in the context of a 6th Fleet military mobilization pointed directly at their planet, their helpfulness was the most alarming thing any of us had ever witnessed. A species that responds to warships with parking directions and antenna repairs is either so naively confident that they have never faced a real threat, or so catastrophically capable that the warships register to them as something roughly equivalent to a mild inconvenience. Neither option was particularly comfortable. The 2nd Fleet arrived and immediately collided with the 1st Fleet's flanking formation because Commander Grix had not filed his positioning coordinates properly. 3 ships sustained minor hull damage. A human message arrived before the collision report had even been written. It said, "That looked like it hurt. Do you need anything?" Admiral's Wrath, watching from command, stood up and shouted, "How are they sending these so fast?" Nobody answered because nobody knew. Then came the moment that ended the war. Or rather, the moment that revealed there had never been a war at all. One of our deep-skin operators, a quiet, methodical analyst named Dressa, who had been working in the background this entire time without anyone noticing, pulled up a long-range structural image of the planet's surface and put it on the main screen. The humans had built something, a platform large and flat, sitting in one of their open landmass regions, clearly constructed recently, and on it, arranged in letters large enough to be visible from orbital distance, spelled out in what appeared to be locally sourced stone, were the words, "Welcome. We have been waiting." Also, Vorruk, the suit machine on level 3, has a loose power coupling. You will need a small wrench, 40 warships, 6 fleets, 43 years of professional service, and I was personally mentioned twice on a stone monument on a planet I had never visited, built by a species I classified as strategically irrelevant, who had apparently been watching me lose arguments with a vending machine for an unknown number of years, and had decided, at the moment of first contact with an armed Galactic fleet, that the most important thing to communicate was maintenance advice. Admiral Zrath sat down very slowly. He looked at me. I looked at him. Somewhere behind us, Pelk made a small, helpless sound. "Vorruk," the Admiral said, quietly, in the tone of being who has just realized that the universe is significantly more complicated than his career prepared him for. "Get me a diplomatic team." "Yes, sir," I said, "and find out about that wrench." I pulled out my communicator. I called our engineering bay. I asked about the suit machine on level 3. There was a long pause. Then our chief engineer said very slowly, "There's a loose power coupling. We found it this morning." "How did you know?" I did not answer. I simply stood there in the middle of the command center surrounded by 40 warships and 6 military fleets, staring at a live feed of a blue planet spinning cheerfully in the dark. And I thought about how humans had spent 40 centuries being watched by a galaxy that considered them irrelevant, had apparently spent a significant portion of that time watching right back, had learned every language, mapped every archive, cataloged every broken vending machine, and had chosen, as their opening, move in first contact with an armed galactic civilization. Not a weapon, not a threat, not even a demand. Just a message, a parking spot, a fixed antenna, and a wrench. The war lasted 9 hours. The friendship, I suspect, will last considerably longer, though I am keeping a close eye on my suit machine, just in case.